Everyone turned when the elevator doors opened. A hush fell over the sleek lobby. She stepped out, shivering, soaked from the rain, and covered in mud from her knees down. Her clothes clung to her, her hair was plastered to her face, and her shoes squelched with every step. In a space filled with crisp suits and polished shoes, she looked like she didn't belong. People whispered. A few laughed under their breath. Security eyed her suspiciously, ready to intervene, but something in her eyes, determined, unshaken, made them pause. Her name was Emily. 25. No car, no designer clothes, and barely enough for the bus fare. But she had a heart full of hope and a resume she printed at the public library that morning. She had woken up before dawn to prepare, but on her way, she saw an elderly man fall near a flooded curb. While others passed him by, she rushed to help. She missed her bus, ran through a construction site to make up time, and slipped in the mud trying to take a shortcut. And now she stood here, in the lobby of one of the city's most prestigious companies, tracking dirt on marble floors, clutching her water-stained folder. People around her questioned her presence, but she never wavered. She hadn't come to impress with appearances, she came to prove her worth. What they didn't know yet was that this muddy girl was about to teach them all a lesson in character, and it would start with just one chance. She had left home before sunrise, her clothes neatly pressed, her resume carefully tucked into a plastic sleeve to protect it from the rain. Her small, worn-out umbrella offered little defense against the storm, but she was determined. Today could change her life. As she stepped onto the street, she saw Mrs. Harris, her 80-year-old neighbor, struggling to carry bags of groceries up her porch steps, rain soaking her thin coat. Without hesitation, Emily ran over, umbrella forgotten. "Let me help you," she said, gently lifting the bags and guiding the old woman inside. She didn't think twice. She just did what felt right. But by the time she left, the bus was gone. She ran, hoping to catch another. Her shoes slipped on the wet pavement, her breath fogging in the cold air. She took a shortcut through a construction zone, her only chance to make it on time. That's when she slipped. Mud splattered her skirt, covered her shoes, smeared up her sleeves. She scrambled up, heart racing, but she never stopped. Most people would have turned around. Called it a loss. But not her. "She needed me more than I needed to be early," Emily would later say. And in that moment, soaked to the bone, shivering and covered in mud, she kept running, toward the very opportunity she feared she'd just ruined. What she didn't realize was that her greatest act of kindness would soon become her greatest strength. The boardroom gleamed with polished wood and glass, a modern fortress of ambition. Around the long tables sat sharply dressed candidates. Flawless suits, expensive watches, confident smiles. Their resumes boasted Ivy League degrees and spotless experience. Then the door creaked open. Emily stepped in. Muddy streaks stained her skirt. Her damp sweater clung to her frame. Her shoes, once beige, were now a dark, soaked brown. Conversations halted. Heads turned. One candidate smirked. Another cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. Whispers floated across the room like smoke. She felt every stare press into her skin. But she didn't flinch. She walked slowly, deliberately, and took a seat at the far end of the table. The CEO, a silver-haired man in his 60s, looked up from her resume, his eyebrow lifting in quiet curiosity. There was silence, thick, unspoken tension. Then Emily spoke. "I know I don't look the part right now," she said, voice steady. "But I believe character should matter more than appearance." The room froze. One of the interviewers blinked in surprise. Another candidate shifted in his chair. The CEO said nothing. He just looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his expression softened. Behind the mud and the mess, he saw something the others didn't, a woman who showed up anyway. Who didn't let the world's judgment stop her from trying. And in that stillness, a shift began, one that would change everything. The room remained silent, the weight of Emily's words still hanging in the air. The CEO leaned back for a moment, studying her. Then, slowly, he set her resume down and leaned forward, his eyes thoughtful. 30 years ago, he began, his voice calm but edged with memory, I walked into a bank interview covered in grease from my night shift at the auto shop. The room shifted. The candidates glanced at each other, unsure if they heard him right. I was 22. I had no degree. I worked nights fixing engines, and days studying at the library. I was exhausted, broke, and when I showed up, the receptionist almost sent me away. He smiled faintly, eyes distant now. The visuals played in his mind, a younger version of himself, greasy hands, oil-stained jeans, tired eyes, sitting nervously across from a polished banker. The discomfort, the stares, the doubt, he remembered it all. But one man saw past the grease, the CEO continued. He listened. He gave me a chance. That day changed my life. He looked directly at Emily. Today, I return the favor. The room held its breath. I see grit. I see integrity. And I see someone who didn't let mud or judgment stop her. That's the kind of person I want in this company. Emily's eyes welled, but she didn't cry. She simply nodded, and for the first time since she arrived, smiled. Something had shifted, not just for her, but for everyone in that room. Weeks later, the office looked the same, bright, modern, alive with quiet ambition, but something was different. In the center of a bustling meeting room stood Emily. No longer the girl who had walked in drenched and muddy, she now stood tall, poised, confident. She led the discussion with clarity and grace, her voice calm, her ideas sharp. The team listened, not out of obligation, but respect. Outside the glass wall, the CEO watched with a soft smile, hands in his pockets. He wasn't just proud, he was reminded of the power of one moment, one decision, to change everything. Later that day, in the break room, a new intern spilled her coffee, face flushed with embarrassment. Emily walked over, knelt down with a napkin, and helped her clean up. Don't worry, she whispered with a smile, we all have our moments. The intern smiled back, comforted. Emily didn't just get the job. She reshaped the way the company saw people. She reminded them all that behind every messy first impression, every rough edge, there could be someone extraordinary. In a world obsessed with polish and perfection, she proved that grit, kindness, and courage shine brighter than any suit ever could. And in doing so, she lit a path for those who would come after her, muddy shoes, trembling hearts, and all.